I don't want to be Kyle Brandt. I don't want to steal the bit because it's Barstool Big Cat's bit. But the
Mm.
coach's photo did come out.
Yeah.
And I will say, if you've not ever read Barstool Big Cat's blog on the coach's photo, it's a great way to introduce yourself to Barstool Big Cat and the kind of part of my take humor. He nailed it once again. I'll just say I'll add on to it. I thought that they should never ever do that photo inside. It's way
No,
more
yeah.
entertaining when they're like staring in the direct sun in like Florida in the heat. And so I'll just say it's a special kind of time of the year in the NFL. The NFL does a great job of like giving space in March. There you go. You found it. Great.
Yeah. Queued it up.
The NFL does a great job of giving space in March to March Madness, and the NFL does a great job of giving no other month and no other sport any other space. It feels like the NFL takes such a backseat in the last 3 weeks of March, first week of April, and then they go hard again here in the next week. We're going to ramp up with draft stuff, and so this is it's just gold. It's just gold. His
I will say
great.
it's like the most it's like the most actually professional photo I've seen them take in a long time.
Because
and it probably is because it is indoors.
Yeah.
And there's no one looks completely ridiculous. So there's always like a few coaches that look just ridiculous.
Well,
but
he pointed it out, and I think it's the best one. The head coach of the Titans, who is I can't think of his name right now. He's the bottom right in the blue. Not Schottenheimer. He's the other. He's the other
right here. Yeah.
He's the other offensive guy's kid. He's the other offensive guy's kid. It was the
Callahan, right?
Callahan.
It's Callahan.
Yes.
It's
Callahan.
Brian Callahan. There you go.
He's literally
Brian
not looking at the camera at all. It's just not like he's completely
he's
looking
straight off. And yeah.
And
Mike McDonald of the Seahawks here is just wearing a white t-shirt. Kyle Brandt made fun of. He's like, this is like a Fruit of the Loom 3-pack. It's like.
Yeah. Brandt and Big Cat, he admires Big Cat. I think he gives credit to Big Cat too when he does his thing. This is the 12th year that Barstool Big Cat's done the blog for it. It's the only time he blogs anymore. I do think it's funny. I do think it is really funny to get a glimpse of what the coaches are like off the field. This is like your kind of one real glimpse.
That's true.
Pete Carroll sitting in between the Harbaugh brothers is very funny.
Very grayscale too. Like both the Harbaughs are very dark gray, and then you've got the lighter gray Pete Carroll in the middle. It's like,
I think Big Cat said his hope was that Pete Carroll had to separate them, like they were fighting, and so it's like he had to sit in between them. It's good stuff. It's good stuff. So check it out. Shout out to those guys. They're great, and it's a reminder once again of where we are in the NFL calendar, as we are the Football Lounge, and we have a lot of news and notes to catch up on. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's been a couple weeks. I had my interview with Alex Kozora of Steelers Depot a couple weeks ago, and then obviously we took last week off. So it's been a few weeks for you, Mark, here on the show, which is exciting because we do have things to talk to, as you mentioned, and the annual NFL owners meetings just wrapped up in Florida with some new rules and other news coming out of the meetings there. So we'll get to that right now. All right. So at the annual NFL owners meeting in Florida, we had kind of a roundtable back and forth with the media and coaches getting to, their first opportunity since Super Bowl to talk with everybody, including GMs as well, and just anyone in attendance there. So getting some insight from some different teams and a couple that are in the spotlight. The Steelers, of course, being a big one, a huge crowd around Mike Tomlin trying to get more information on Aaron Rodgers. And a lot of new rules that came out of the meetings too. The first one, Mark, that we'll kind of get out of the way, the Packers put forth the proposal there. And for those who don't know, real quick, a slight tangent. The owners meetings are where the NFL competition committee gets together, where everyone can have discussions and vote on proposals for the upcoming season. It's not the only time they can bring up things for consideration later on in the year. But this is really a time where everybody's gathered together to discuss these things. The Packers put forth a proposal to ban the tush push. It did have support. There are plenty of teams and coaches and representatives who are for banning the tush push. But on the same, token, the Eagles and their cohort of supporters also have a lot on their side, pushing for it to remain. So what the NFL owners and the NFL committee decided was we are postponing this vote, and they're going to just kind of, stew on it for a little bit and decide at a later date. It can be brought up again in May for discussion, but that's where it sits right now. Not willing to make any determination on that as it stands.
It's the best time of the NFL calendar to make new rules and to make changes because it's before the draft. So it's before you like if they were to ban the tush push, maybe a team in the NFC East, then that changes who they're looking at their draft board, knowing that they're trying to go up against Philadelphia. Now they know the tush push for now is still going to be intact. So maybe you see Washington get aggressive with a big defensive lineman earlier in the draft or something along those lines. Mm-hmm. And it also then it's before OTAs and all the training and offseason workouts, so coaches can start knowing what they have to implement and change and kind of scheme up for. I'm in favor of keeping the tush push. We saw what the Bills tried to do in mimicking it, and they couldn't run it effectively against the Chiefs. I think that, in my opinion, the tush push is something that is banning it is just only saying like it's not fair. It's like it seems so little kid on the playground pointing the fingers like that's not fair. That's not fair. You're bigger and stronger. It's like, well, yeah, that's what football is all about: being bigger and stronger and using your strength against your opponents. If the Eagles didn't win the Super Bowl this year, I don't think it would be as big of a deal. But I do think people look at it as like it's a secret weapon for a really, really good franchise that's at the top of the NFL ladder right now. And so I think that's probably why there was more support for it this year than there was last year when they tried to ban it. And we'll see how it goes. I'm in favor of keeping it. I think like anything, like the Wildcat when it first started, like the mobile quarterbacks 10 years ago when they really first started blowing up in the league, you just got to make adjustments, adjust. The Eagles aren't going to be great at it forever. Jalen Hurts will age. It's really the Jalen Hurts play. He's the one that makes it so special. And I would love to see a guy like Jalen Milroe. If he ends up in a good situation, he's got the tush push type body to where then it could become a weapon for another team. So
Cam Newton was perfect for it. The Panthers really wish they figured this out how many years back. But yeah, no, I'm largely in agreement with you. The only thing I would say is I think some of the detractors have a point. The defense isn't allowed to do it. So the defense isn't allowed to push off of each other because that was part of the rules with the kick, the field goal kick unit. Yeah. So that is still banned. You're not allowed to push or launch yourself off of a defensive player in any way to create leverage. And the reason that was banned wasn't because it was effective. It was banned because it was unsafe. And it was
very unsafe.
It was dangerous for players, right? And I think that that's what is still being discussed about the tush push in and of itself. Is it safe? And is it fair? Not because someone's better at it, but is it fair because the defense isn't allowed to use that same type of leverage play with their side as you are on offense? So that much I understand. If they somehow can find maybe a happy medium there where the defense can, do that type of stuff.
Yeah.
I think people are worried then that's going to say, well, why can't we bring it back on the kickoff or on the kick unit then? If that's, we're allowed to do that in regulation. So I could see both sides of it to that degree, but I do think at the end of the day, we're talking about a sample size of I think they said somewhere around like the neighborhood of 60 plays a year compared to 50,000 plus actual football plays that are played during the course of a season. So in terms of sample size, you just don't have enough. You don't know how dangerous it is yet. I don't recall any specific big
major
moment where
injuries
someone got
because
really
of
hurt.
just push. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, the quarterback sneaks have produced more injuries. We saw Mahomes recently a couple years back, right?
He doesn't
Um,
quarterback sneak ever. He
yeah.
doesn't do it.
So, that's all in play, but I think it makes sense. Like, this is something that if you're going to make the decision, you better not make it lightly. And so I'm all for them postponing it to say, I think we need to have more discussions about this and figure out exactly, why this is,
Teams
being put forth.
teams that don't like it feel like teams without identities, right? Like the Green Bay Packers were the leaders of this. Well, they got absolutely manhandled by the Eagles in the playoff game. And if I were to ask you what's the identity of the Green Bay Packers,
Right now, you don't know.
I
Yeah.
don't know. I mean, they have Josh Jacobs, they have a run game, but they have a bunch of young wide receivers and a young quarterback. They have a solid defense, but I don't think of myself like, oh, the Green Bay Packers. When I think of the Minnesota Vikings, I think the wide receivers. They're going to beat you with explosive, incredible plays in the passing game because of those wide receivers. When I think of the Kansas City Chiefs, I think of 12 play drives, Mahomes just surgically dink dunk, dink dunk, dink dunk down the field, and then making huge turnovers on defense because of Chris Jones and the pressure they get with Karlaftis and Jones. So you know what I mean? But when I think of the Eagles, I think of tush push. They're the biggest, most physical team
Just
in the
physical.
NFL.
Yeah.
And so when you think of the Niners, you think of scheming. They're going to out scheme you. They're going to make something look like it's something and it be something completely different. I don't know what the Packers' identity is. And I think that's one of the reasons why they were the leaders in trying to get rid of it.
The NFL implemented its new kickoff rule this past season. We saw that in action, where the ball was taken out to the 30, tried to incentivize some more kick returns, and of course, the whole format of, basically having the line of players unable to move until the ball, is in the air and all of that
by
stuff.
the end of the year. I thought it was.
I think it worked. Yeah. Yeah, it was just fine. Like it didn't move the needle enough, and that's why I think they did what they did at the meetings the past couple of days, where they are saying, okay, we're taking what we did last year, we are making that now a permanent infrastructure of kickoffs. However, now we're changing the touchbacks to go to the 35 instead of the 30. Their hope here is to make it so that they find the perfect sweet spot to incentivize more kick returns, because they still didn't get enough kick returns last year that they were hoping for with this move. I think now with the touchbacks going to 35, a lot of kickers are going to be putting this one in play and really trying to get, units to earn it,
And the kickoff, when you did see returns, you didn't see the giant hits because guys didn't have the running start like they used to have. Yeah. And so I think that's what makes it an exciting play again, is that you can actually visualize and scheme a little bit more as the return team. How do we want to attack this?
Yeah,
knowing
there's going to be strategy.
You have the advantage because they are you're the ones who's getting the ball and with forward momentum. I'll say this. I don't hate the fact that they're trying. Let's go to the 35. Let's just try something. Let's make another amendment to it. I like that they're willing to say, hey, this is permanent, but we're also going to make an amendment. That just, again, shows the flexibility of the NFL to try to do what they think is best for the game and for the league. And that's one of the reasons why we both love the NFL. And it also is going to put pressure on these kickers, because kickers had it so easy before this rule change over the last 5-6 years. Just boot it out of bounds. Just get it to the back of the end zone. That's all you have to do. And now you're going to ask these kickers, no, you have to accurately drop the ball in that landing zone, or else we're going to be pissed that your defense is going to hate you, and the head coach is going to be pissed off at you, and the special team coach is going to rip you a new one if you're letting them start at the 35. That is 10 yards and you're at midfield. That's 20 yards, and for some kickers, you're in field goal range. That is it's a big difference.
It makes a big difference. I mean, think about it. If you get one first down in that situation, and then you have to punt, you're likely pinning them deep. Like it and then it affects the flow of the game and everything. So yeah, if you're the kicking team, and you hit it out of bounds, you better hope that your defense is able to get a 3 and out. Otherwise, that team is at least punting you and pinning you deep, or they're getting into field goal range with 2 first downs essentially. So no, that definitely does make a difference. And oh yeah, go ahead.
We like scoring, we like points, and so having your offense start at the 35,
yeah,
that's a win too.
And I like that you mentioned their willingness to adapt. This was a rule they could have easily not really addressed and run it back again for a year. They're already making billions and billions of dollars. The NFL is not hurting at all. And yet they constantly are in it. They're constantly tweaking and optimizing, trying to fine tune everything. And that is what makes them good. Like the best in anything is being able to adapt and not, clutch your pearls over certain things. That's why the MLB has taken forever to, get an inch or give an inch.
But I love the torpedo bat. I love the torpedo bat. And I want it to stay. Cool. I want to stay. Why not?
See, like recently now, and they're seeing an uptick in fandom. Like they're leaning into their stars more. Yeah. They're promoting themselves better. They're creating events like the Field of Dreams game and stuff like that. And they're doing rule changes that impact. So it's good to see the NFL continue to do that. Overtime, another big one, Mark. The rules now are going to reflect what they've been in the postseason. For the last 3 or how long has the postseason overtime rule been in effect?
I think this was the 4th year of it.
Okay, I was gonna say it's been a few years for sure, where both teams are guaranteed a possession. So it's not first to score a touchdown automatically wins. Now they're taking that from the postseason and applying it to all overtime in the regular season as well. To me, I think this was a no-brainer move. I know that a lot of people liked it before and wanted to reward it, but I see overtime as being a third half, if you will. Because if the game is played and segmented in this way, each team is guaranteed one possession. The first one in the first half, one in the second half. Of course, they all have multiple possessions at both, but you're guaranteed one in the first half, and then whoever didn't get it then is guaranteed to get it the second half. That should be the same logic in overtime. You should be equaling that playing field there for both teams. And so I'm all for both teams getting a shot at it. And now they did take it down from 15 minutes to 10. So they're saying, we'll give you both possessions, but you better have some urgency.
Be aggressive.
I like it. Yeah.
So my thoughts on this, on overtime. Because they have this rule already, I agree with you. It makes sense to just make it the rule, right? And I also like that they're cutting it to 10 minutes. That being said, I still hate the overtime rule overall. My goal, as I said on this show before, is that if you go to overtime, the away team gets the ball, first score wins. Because if you're a home team and you've got it to a tie, that should be an embarrassment. You're the home team. And if you're an away team and you've got to the point where this is a tie game, you deserve the right. You've played probably better than the home team. I've always of that mindset. Just give it to the away team. First to score wins. Just get the game over with. But because they're never going to do that, I like that they're keeping now regular season and postseason. It's consistent. It's 10 minutes. Be aggressive. Someone go score, and then other team go try to score, and then let's get this show on the road.
Yeah, I mean, I initially was worried that it's going to prolong games and things like that, but the fact that they took it down from 15 to 10, I think that was a really good balancing of the two, and it's gonna create probably some more electric overtimes, because people are either going to be needing to score really quick, or they're going to be trying to play it safe and take more time off the clock, but then risk potentially not getting that first down or whatever it may be. So I think there's going to be some strategy involved with this as well. The NFL will now use the Sony Hawkeye virtual measurement system to measure ball placement and distance. So the chain gangs are no more, kind of. The chain gangs will still be there in a reserve role, ready to step in if the technology fails or if something happens. The chain gang will be there to step in and perform their duties. But from now on, they tested this out in preseasons and throughout the season, they were doing it kind of behind the scenes, trying to see how it would work. They feel that they have the proof of concept in place, and they're going to be integrating that with the instant replay to kind of create a whole virtual recreation of the play and the measurement where the ball lies. So this should be interesting. I believe you are against this. Is that correct?
I'm against this completely because I like the old men running out there and stumbling and bumbling and the note card. My stance on this is the same with robot umps in baseball. It's the same with everything. I like the human element of the game. And I get there's still going to be a lot of human element. The refs are still going to make the calls. But the more we let technology inch its way in, the closer the people is like, whoa, we want to get it perfect. We want to get it perfect. It's an imperfect game. That's why they call it the game of inches. If you're trying to fight for perfection, you're going to spend so much time reviewing things, looking at things. And I know they'll say, no, well, AI will just know it right away and we'll just be able to see it right away because we have the technology. I don't want there to be a holding call in every play because the AI sees it and it's a hold. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want. And so I know people say, well, maybe it's never going to go that way. But if you give a mouse a cookie, that's the way these things kind of tend to go. I like when Joe West and Angel Hernandez are ump showing sometimes. It's fun in baseball. I liked it in basketball. You're like, hey, is this another one of those where the refs are betting on the game type of situation? It's fun fodder to talk about. Dan, how many times have you had conversations with work colleagues where they know you as a football guy, as a sports person? I get this all the time as a guy who hosts this sports podcast, who does sports stuff for the TV station. The sales guys walk in, and the first thing they say after a big game is like, man, those refs, they rigged it. That's the generic water cooler talk for the guys who are uneducated in football, but like watching football, you know what I mean? And so, that's my soapbox on it. Listen, if they can get this right and get this aspect of it perfect, I'm okay with that, but let's not push it farther than that. Let's let the ball spot be perfect so we don't have to worry about did Josh Allen get there on the extension or not. And then let's just leave the refs, though, to still make the calls when they need to make the calls. And if you have then an AI assistant or some sort of technology assistant that can help the refs, but the refs are still making the calls, not the AI in that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, so I thought we were going to be in vehement disagreement here, but it actually sounds like you actually think that this particular measure is fine as long as it doesn't snowball into others. And I actually then we're in like complete agreement there because I think this particular measure is great. Like I want this particular use of technology to be a part of the game because I do want I want accuracy I want actual good performance and actual earned things to be rewarded as such. And so I think if you get a first down, you could say these players legitimately got the first down, but they were robbed of it because of somebody's eye. I like those types of things. I would love to be taken out of the game and shown to be as accurate as possible. But I do want the refs still to make determinations about things like PI and holding and personal fouls, those types of things. Absolutely. And I want that to stay part of the game because I do think that is important to have that human of it. And those are just discretionary things that you can't really rely on technology to get perfect all the time. It's kind of the same. I feel differently a little bit about the umpire situation because it's a unique situation in all of sports when you're talking about an umpire because they are kind of creating this. They all have their own strike zones, and it's up to you to like strategize around that, right? It sucks if you're in the playoffs, man, and you got bases loaded, you're down a run in the bottom of the ninth, and you get rung up on a fastball 5 inches, north of the zone because Angel Hernandez had a bad day.
Yes, like that's also why they have those challenges now in baseball to say, hey, we're going to challenge that.
Yeah,
So,
but you can't challenge balls and strikes.
yeah, you can. The hitter can now
What?
challenge balls and strikes this year because they were doing that in the minors. That's in the MLB this year.
That's a thing. Okay, I honestly didn't know
but
that.
you only
Okay.
get one. Even if you win it, you only kind of get one. So it's this kind of like use it with caution. My thing is with football, right? I think there's less places where the AI could be like absolutely necessary. Baseball is like tennis, where it's like,
Yeah,
AI could just determine everything, and you don't need human
Right.
at all. Football is one of those. There's so much gray area. Even the AI might not be able to determine, is that a hold? Is that a chop block? Is that a horse collar? And so
Yeah. Was that celebration, inappropriate or not? Yeah.
Let the refs have the control over it. But in baseball, it's simple. It's like down the line, balls and strikes. And then did you touch him before he touched the base, right? Like you should be able to use AI or I keep saying AI, but technology in general could be able to solve all that. In football, it's like, okay, the spot is one thing, but then let the refs handle the rest of it. Football shouldn't become just, the technology, because again, it doesn't give us anything to argue about and to kind of stew over as fans. If on Monday the game was perfectly called and it's like, well, no, we just got our asses beat, and there's no, I can't say anything about it because we were just the worst team. But if my team is what I think, better or worse than they actually are, and there was a one call by the refs, that's all we get to do. We get to come on here and bitch and moan, and it's fun. And it's
and then watch people sue these like AI companies if the technology fails and they lost a lot of money, on a call where the tech failed. You could see that down the road.
The first
right?
person to sue the AI company because the spot they think was actually incorrect, and they lost a big bet on it or something. Yeah, that's good.
That'd be wild. The final one I wanted to touch on real quick is that teams now, for at least a trial year, can hold video or phone calls with prospective free agents during that 2-day negotiating period. Like previously, I'm pretty sure previously you could only speak with their representation, or, try and get deals in place ahead of time. But now you can actually contact those free agents. But I think it's like limited. Like you can only do like 5. You can only have like certain conversations with 5 players, something like that. So just wanted to toss that out there as a little nugget that I thought was interesting.
Yeah, I think it's good.
We had a couple quarterback things. Stefon Diggs as well signed with the Patriots on a pretty big deal, $63.5 million.
Way more money than I thought he'd get. Yeah.
And I'm sure that this deal is,
they can get out of it
really a 1-year deal. But it's still a lot of guaranteed money, right? He had 23, I think, and a half million guaranteed or something like that. And that's the average yearly value of it as well. Do you think this helps the Patriots? Because in some ways, I think you could argue that a guy like Stefon Diggs might not be the best thing for Drake May and a young team who's trying to grow and develop. He has had some issues, with his on-field antics. So
that's my gut originally was that, but I think as time has settled on the move, I'm comfortable with it. Again, if the contract they can get out of it, if it's a disaster, then I am comfortable with it if I'm a Patriots fan, because he's back in the AFC East where he'll get to play against Buffalo, and I think he'll be really motivated, you know what I mean, in that kind of world. He also, last year was supposed to be this kind of big pop year. You're with Houston. You're going to be the missing piece. They needed that veteran go-to number 1 receiver to lead that young receiver corps. It just was such a disaster injury-wise for that wide receiver corps in Houston, himself included. And so I think Vrabel is the key too, to where whatever Stefon Diggs thinks he can get away with, Mike Vrabel is a dog. Like he's a Dan Campbell. He's a Mike Tomlin.
No nonsense.
Like, you're in my locker room. You're in my world, buddy. And I think, listen, if Stefon Diggs can buy into what Mike Vrabel is selling, he can become a really, really good weapon for Drake May. Yeah, you might have to overpay for the veteran. You might be overpaying for past experience. But hey, it opens things up for the Patriots to not have to draft a wide receiver in round 1 or 2, right?
True.
It gives them a
Yeah.
little bit of flexibility. And if Stephon Diggs returns to what he was 2-3 years ago, for even just one season, if that helps build up the Drake May confidence to where they can compete for a wild card spot, then it's worth it, right? You can move on from him and then go get your wide receiver number 1 to pair with Drake May for the next 10 years. It feels a little reminiscent of like the Bears with Keenan Allen. Like, ooh, is this a missing piece? And we saw it ended up just being like, God, it feels like we're forcing the ball to Keenan Allen a lot and not letting him grow with Rome Odunze. And so buyer beware, like, you know what I mean? You hope that Stephon Diggs can just be comfortable being 60 catches, 750 yards, and 5 touchdowns. If he's comfortable in that role, because if his mindset's right, that role then could end up being 78 catches, 900 yards, and 8 or 9 touchdowns. You know what I mean?
Right.
But if he goes in there with the mindset, no, I'm 110 catches, 1,500 yards, and 12 touchdowns, then I worry a little bit about how it's all going to go down. But I have faith in Vrabel, and I think Pats fans should too.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair point. And the Patriots have a lot of draft capital coming up here at the end of the month. So we'll see what they do with that too. Let's get to some quarterback news. Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston signed to New York. Wilson, a $10.5 million guaranteed deal for 1 year. He can get up to $21.5 million with incentives.
It's a 2-year deal, right?
I believe Jameis is a 2-year. I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure that that is what that was. So an interesting move from the Giants. They do hold, the number 3 overall pick. So I doubt that this is going to stop them from taking a quarterback or change their draft plans in any way. But it was interesting to see that fit with Brian Daboll's offense for Russell Wilson there in New York, and to have Jameis Winston. They've got quite a different quarterback room than they had a year ago. That's for sure.
This is it. My instant gut reaction when Jameis signed was I was excited because I was like, oh, this is going to be fun. Like the Giants will now be fun. Russell makes it like now it's a quarterback competition I don't really care about. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, I don't have the drive. If I'm a Giants fan.
Do you think it is a quarterback competition legitimately? I
no,
have a hard.
Russ was told, he already said, I expect to be the starter.
Right.
I hope it's a quarterback competition. I hope the Daboll is open and if at the end of camp goes, no, Jameis gives us the best chance to win. And I need to show my boss and this fan base that I can actually still be the head coach of this football team going forward. I would not, if I was the Giants, take a quarterback in round 1. If I was the Giants, I would know, and I would, if I was Daboll and I was their GM, they're both on the hot seat, I would say we need to hit on the first 3 rounds of guys that just could contribute, and we can show our owner that, like, hey, we can build this team. We can build this team, right? Look we just nailed these draft picks, right? So that's what I would be thinking right now if I was in charge of the New York Football Giants. But I wouldn't be afraid to take a young quarterback in rounds 4, 5, or 6. Someone that if you start the season with Russ and it's not great, and then you go to Jameis and he's energy for 3 games, and then he turns it back into the Jameis pumpkin, and maybe you're sitting then at like 3-5 or 4, or 2-6, and you say to yourself, holy crap. Again, what's the break glass of case of emergency? 4th round pick, Kyle McCord. You know what I mean? That we're like, all right, now Daboll's going to show, hey, I'm going to make this rookie into something, and we'll have a little bit of fun to wind the season. So,
and if he doesn't do well, then your prime position next year in a much better quarterback class. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I wouldn't take a quarterback if I was the Giants in rounds 1, 2, or 3. Who knows? They may just say, we're going to throw Shedeur into this mess. We're going to throw Jalen Milroe into this mess. I don't know. But I would rather see Jameis Winston as the quarterback in a Brian Daboll system than I would Russell Wilson. So
Well, and
I'm
I think it
I'm
would be
hopeful
good for
we get.
Jameis.
Yeah, I'm hopeful we get Jameis.
Yeah, and Jameis's biggest problem, right, is his you know, awful turnover worthy plays. If there's a coordinator out there that can maybe help taper some of that down, it would be a guy like, Dable or a Kevin O'Connell.
Yeah,
I would trust that. Now, granted, I would think Stefanski is also in that mix, and it just didn't work out that way in Cleveland. But nonetheless, yeah, it'd be very interesting to see Jameis win that battle, or at least just get some valuable snaps under center there. The only other quarterback battle of note, and it's one that's been talked about ad nauseum. It's one I talked with Alex quite a bit about just a couple weeks ago. Aaron Rodgers to the Steelers. At this point, it seems like it's pretty much a done deal. Like it's going to happen. It was just reported that he held a private workout with DK Metcalf at UCLA, and they threw together and hung out. So it's just like if Rodgers was going to retire, I would think that would have happened by now, to be honest, even though it's Rodgers. So it does seem like 98% chance that Aaron Rodgers is going to be the Steelers quarterback next year. I don't necessarily know how I feel about that just yet. But it is nonetheless, I think, where we find ourselves right now.
Well, if and when it happens, we'll have to do a long half hour on that for sure. I will say this. You say 98% sure. Can I give you what the 2% is? The 2% that is?
Yeah.
I think Aaron.
Don't say Kirk Cousins. Don't tell me Kirk
Cousins. No. I think Aaron. No, I'm going to talk about why Aaron wouldn't be 100%.
I got you.
I'm saying that Aaron's 98% sure. We're waiting, and we're still waiting, on Brock Purdy. And what I've heard is that, and read, is that Brock Purdy wants north of 55. And the Niners are like, we're in the 40s here. Like, we're not anywhere close. And if this is a standoff and a stalemate, would it shock you if Shanahan says, fuck it, give me Rodgers for this year. We'll just trade Purdy. He'll sign somewhere who wants to sign him to a lucrative deal. And I think there'd be some takers in that market, right? In that world. And then Rodgers, they run with him for a year, kind of final last hurrah for this version of the Niners. And then they go into a full rebuild the next year. And they say, all right, now we're going to take a year or two with Shanahan and Lynch and rebuild this thing back up and hopefully be ready to compete again for title 2027. You know what I mean? I also think that's the same with the Minnesota Vikings. I think Aaron Rodgers still looks at Minnesota as a real possibility, saying if J.J. McCarthy starts OTAs and starts things and things aren't looking good, Aaron might want to be available for that phone call, right? And I think for Aaron, San Francisco and Minnesota are better situations than Pittsburgh, because look at who he's looking up to in Pittsburgh. Baltimore and Lamar Jackson, a two-time MVP, and Joe Burrow, who just had the best quarterback season we've seen in 2 or 3 years. And then also, you're in the AFC with Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, and it's like this is a lot. And I think that him in the NFC with stable franchises like a Minnesota or San Francisco could maybe offer a little bit more offensive coaches as well. I think that makes a difference.
Well, and let's not forget that he has a personal, attachment to San Francisco, because he never forgave them for passing him up in the draft. And
he was a Niners fan
taking Alex Smith, right?
Yeah.
And he was a Niners fan, but I almost wonder if he has this grudge that he would never play for them and give them that satisfaction because of that. He does, that wouldn't surprise me if he was that type of person. But you bring up a good point. Like, he wants to make sure that his options are out there, but also you got to think too, while Pittsburgh is in no rush and there's no real need to be at this point, they've got their one option. And if he doesn't pan out, then it's going to be just Mason Rudolph. Like, that's just what it's going to be.
Now, have you heard the rumors that Tomlin really likes Jalen Milroe?
Yeah, and I've heard that a lot. And the Steelers in general do. I just don't it would surprise me if they take him in the first round and they
I
don't
don't
have a
think
second
Jalen's
round pick.
I don't think Jalen's going in the first round. I could see Pittsburgh trading down
Yes,
and
that's what would
getting
they
a
would have to
second
do to
round
get that.
and maybe getting a second round pick and an extra third round pick or something to get out of the first round.
Yeah.
I would say that's a real possibility if I was Pittsburgh.
I wouldn't hate that.
Even if we draft Aaron anyways, if there's one team in the AFC that is poised to build their version of the Philadelphia Eagles, it's the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like elite defense with a great defensive line and then an offense that's just a smash mouth, big time strong quarterback, you know what I mean, with big play wide receivers. That's what the Eagles are. Deep balls to the 2-star wide receivers and then smash mouth run game. That's what Pittsburgh wants to be. And so I like Jalen Milroe to Pittsburgh regardless of what happens with Aaron Rodgers. And
I would agree with
if
you.
you're Jalen Milroe, that's a great situation to be in, to just sit for a year behind Aaron.
But if you're the Steelers, I would think there still is there's a deadline of sorts. Like I know that they probably haven't put one on him, and they're not saying there is one.
Yeah.
But like for me, he's got to be on this team by OTAs. If he's not, I'm not like you need a guy like Aaron there for OTAs. You need that.
With that wide receiver core too, for sure. Yeah, he needs to start.
So
and with Arthur Smith, it's going to be a whole new thing for Aaron.
Yeah, for sure. So, well, that covers a lot of the meetings in the last couple of weeks. A lot of draft stuff on the horizon for us here, and hoping to do some sort of draft show for everybody. During the draft as well. More on that to come in the next couple of weeks. But we will be doing some draft analysis, some prospects, and quarterback class, running back class, some really good D linemen. There's a lot to look at here for this upcoming class. So definitely something to stay tuned for. Here on the horizon.
I will just say to final thoughts on this episode from everything we've covered. I think again, kudos to the NFL for dominating the calendar in the right spaces and also taking the step back so we can enjoy March Madness. Like it's just I felt like this year
an opening day and
an opening, like it just feels like, okay. And now in 2 weeks from now, March Madness will be done. Baseball season will be already in full swing. The NBA playoffs will be getting ready to start. And guess what? The NFL drops in the NBA's lap, the draft. And so it's so smart. And did you see the other note I wanted to make sure we mentioned? 3 Christmas Day games this year, 2 on Netflix, and then the Thursday night game on Prime because it is on Thursday this year, Christmas.
Yeah. No, that's pretty cool. That's going to be a jam-packed holiday for sure. So we're going to have Thanksgiving, 3 games on Thanksgiving.
Yeah. 3 on Christmas. The NFL just says to the NBA, F you, dudes. We don't care. They
don't care anymore. And hey, they can swing it around.
The NBA should counter by just not playing games. Honestly, I think the NBA should counter and do the PR move, like the righteous PR move, and to say, you know what? We've listened to our players, and in our new collective bargaining, we're going to give you the holiday off. NFL is going to make their players work on the holiday because you'll see that the players already have said, like NFL players, like, we don't love it. This sucks. Like, it's not fun, but what are you going to do? If I was the NBA, I'd counter by just now be like, you know what? We've learned from the error of our ways. We don't care about that anymore. We're going to do right by our players early in the season and give them the day off.
Yeah, no, that's true. It
won't happen. It won't happen, but it won't happen. But that's what I would do if I was Adam Silver.
This has been the Football Lounge with Mark and Dan. We are part of the For Frequency Sake Podcast Network. You can go to forfantasysakeqc.com to check out all of the other shows and everything that we've got going for you. A lot coming up here on the network, a lot of shows, getting ready for this NFL draft, the baseball season, and much, much more. So be sure to check that out. Thank you for all the support. We will see you back here next week.